What's good, everybody? What's good? Welcome to another episode of Take Time Out with Tre Mosley. I am your host, Tre Mosley, and we got a good one for you today, y'all. Known this brother for quite some time. You know, he hails from the mean streets of Chicago, and we got a story just in that, how Voiceover literally saved this man's life. Good friend, good brother. Mr. Rick Potty is in the building, y'all. What's
Tre
good, man?
Miggity Mosley, what's happening? What's up, man?
You know, I hear this dude literally daily because he does the radio imaging here at a station in Vegas. So when I'm driving, I'm like, 103.9, like, shut up.
Actually, it's 975, hot 975.
That, you know, how many
So
stations
you be punching back. You know, actually 103.9 is our sister station.
Yeah.
So there's a relationship there. So we'll give you that.
So word on the street is, as far as this whole radio voiceover thing, it's kind of like a chicken before the egg thing. You did radio.
Did radio first.
Or you did VO. And you were like a kid, like 13, 14?
Yeah, man. I was listening to the radio every day. And here's the deal, Tre. And let me know if I'm going too fast or doing too much.
No, you
So
good?
I was listening to the radio every day. And let me take it back, though. My cousin and I, we used to listen to Dr. Demento and Weird Al Yankovic.
The polka show.
Yeah. So we had this little Panasonic recorder. Maybe it was a Sanyo. I don't know what it was, but we used to record our voices. But we didn't know what we were doing. We were like becoming something. Radio people, voice, I don't know. But so I did that regularly, and it got to the point where I listened to radio so much, and I said, you call the radio station and make dedications to my girlfriend at around 10 o'clock every day. And the radio personality said one day, why are you calling me every day at this time? And I said, I'm sick. He said, don't give me that. What happened? I said, got kicked out of school. And then he took the time to just talk to me and mentor me and, you know, talk me back into getting in school. And I just want to be like that man. Yeah. And from that moment on, Tre, he put like that little mustard seed in me. And I wanted to be him. I wanted to be him. And his name is Earl Boston. And that's how it all started, man. That's his whole radio thing. The love of the mic started for me.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, let's go a little deeper because, you know, a conversation that we had prior to getting on.
Yeah.
That you said that, you know, growing up and being in, and if you folks don't know what Cabrini Green is, he gonna tell you what it is. You think of the worst projects you've been in, and then there's Cabrini Green.
Exactly.
So tell them how you were able to navigate through those years. Like I said, that it literally, you know, doing this like saved your life, man.
Yeah, seriously. Through the grace of God, like if you ever watched the show Good Times, those projects were real. That's where the whole family lived. JJ, Thelma. You know, all of them. That's where they live, the Cabrini Green. And that was real, like the gang issues, prostitution, drugs, you name it. I lived there. And how I got there is, first of all, I grew up on what's called Inglewood, which is another rough neighborhood in Chicago. And when my mother had suddenly become single, I'm growing up and she's like, I can't deal with this divorce and I can't deal with you. Go to your daddy's house. So she gave me a suitcase, put me on the bus, went to my father's house, and I was out of there. I was in the projects, and we talking about, like I said, gang violence, drugs. And my father was I'm the eldest of 8 kids he had over there, and along with his wife's sister and her babies, along with her drunk brother who was sleeping on the couch. It was a mess. And then all the problems you have in the inner city, man, but me, I was still laser focused on doing something in radio, Tre. And I don't know, man, by the grace of God, bro, I'm here. I've never been shot, stabbed, abused. I barely even got into a fight, if I got to be honest with you. I barely got into a fight, man. I mean, that was my life. And from that point, that's when I figured out I had to do something with my life. And that's when I really said, this radio thing, I really need to take it seriously. And that's when I met Earl Boston and all of that stuff happened, man. Tre, I will continue to talk, man. I will talk on and on. And I want to mess things up, man. But
Nah, man, you good.
Yeah.
This is good. This what we. Hey, I told you it's unscripted. So
Yeah.
whatever's coming out is coming out. So
Absolutely.
let's paint the picture. So
Mm-hmm.
you're in a position where you're like, all right, if I don't do something, I'm gonna be one of these cats on the poster saying, "Have you seen this dude? Because he out here doing some
Mm-hmm.
nefarious things."
Right.
Um, talk to us about when you made that decision. Like, all right, so Mr. Boston gonna give me this shot. You
Mm-hmm.
walking into the station, and your first reaction to, all right, I'm about to do this. Like, was there fear? Was there excitement? Did you have expectations set for yourself? And then did you meet or exceed, like, you know what? Dang, I didn't know it was gonna be like this. Or was it something you just felt you were natural at doing?
I felt like I was natural, but let me just take you back a little bit. So Earl is a person who mentored me. He talked to me. He talked me into getting back into school. And from that point on, and I gotten back into school, but I also saw this commercial on TV that said, "How'd you like to be a radio broadcaster? Columbia School of Broadcasting. We can get you on the radio," that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So, me, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, I joined Columbia School of Broadcasting. And from listening to the radio station every day, listening to Earl Boston, Geno Jones, all these big radio personalities around the country, I would listen to them, Trey, and I would write down everything that they say. Like, I stopped the recorder, write that down. Stop it, write it down. Literally everything that they said. And now I've got my script. And all I had to do was just kind of listen to these guys. I want to sound like them. Earl had a smooth voice. He was like, 102.7 BMX is Earl Boston. It's going to be sunny outside today and a cloud. He was so smooth. So I picked that thing up at a young age, like 16, 17 years old. Now I'm going to Columbia School of Broadcasting. So they had their little, campus radio station. So I'm on the radio, C88. This is Zurich on the radio, and it's going to be cloudy. And they're like, who is this little kid with his voice like this? And they were just so amazed. And that was all derived from me, listening to Earl Boston. So after I stayed in Columbia for, a couple years, now it comes the point where you have to look for jobs. Right. And my first job before leaving Columbia was a local radio station, a 10-watt radio station, which was for free. It was for us kids. So I'm working at this Chicago radio station owned by the Chicago Boys and Girls Club called WCYC. At the same time, going to Columbia. Now I'm working here for free. It's for kids.
Right.
But now we got to work in the real world, the radio. So I'm sending out cassette tapes every day to different radio stations around the country. And one happened to be, and this was 1988. There's a station called WBMS 1340. And I sent that tape to them and they loved me. I was like, by this time I was 19 years old and I hadn't spoken to Earl now because he was my mentor, like in maybe a couple months or so. So I'm working in North Carolina, first time ever on the airplane, live in Chicago, it was snowing, got to North Carolina. It was sunny. I was like, how the hell is this? Do we go through a time warp? Like, how does this happen? Like, right. I never been on a plane before. So I get off this plane in winter clothes, man. It's hot as hell outside. And now I'm working at this radio station. This kid, remember, I'm just 19 at the time, doing the overnight shift. And everybody's just amazed. Kid from Chicago is coming to North Carolina. He's amazing. And within 2 weeks' time, I went from the overnight shift person to the afternoon guy. Now, mind you, Trey, I was probably making about $2, $3 an hour. I didn't have a car. I didn't have a bank account. I was used to cashing my checks at the local cash checker. You know what I'm saying? That was me. I had no car. I was walking to work, couple of miles back and forth. I'm 6'1", and I barely had a meal. So it's kind of like I was skinny as all be out. People thought I was sick. I just wasn't eating. I didn't have any money. I mean, for me, a meal was like, do you remember like those little sandwich cookies with the cream in the middle? Just that was like my meal was a snack. Exactly. I had sandwich cookies, and from Chicago we call it pop, but everybody else call it soda, right? So we had a sandwich cookie and a soda. That's what I ate every day. That's all I could afford. If I had a little extra money, for me, it would be gizzards from Kentucky Fried Chicken, because that was some type of protein.
Yeah.
So I decided to get some money up, and I called Earl, and it was expensive to call in the payphones back in the day, right?
Yes, sir.
I called Earl in the payphone. I said, "Hey, Earl, this is Zurich, And he said, "Hey, Zurich, how you doing?" I said, "Fine. I'm at a radio station in North Carolina in Wilmington." He's like, "Oh yeah." He said, "Send me a tape." And it was actually more to that. So I sent him my demo tape, and he heard it. He was completely blown away. He's like, "I want to hire you. Can you come Monday?" This was a Friday. I was like, "Yeah, I can come. I don't have I don't have a car or nothing like that." He's like, "I'm going to send you money through Western Union or whatever it was."
Wow.
And you're going to hop on the bus. So I quit the job in North Carolina, and Earl Boston was in Macon, Georgia. This is 1988. My son was just born too, Trey, by the way.
Wow.
That same year, I hopped on a bus, and now I go from being on the AM radio station to the FM station in Macon, Georgia. So I get there in Macon, Georgia, and it's the most exciting time of my life. I'm on an FM radio station. And Earl Boston took me under his wing like I was his son. He had no children.
Mm-hmm.
And he taught me everything he knew from that point on. And that set me up in my radio career. And mind you, this was 88. I left Chicago. My goal then, Trey, was to come back to Chicago and work at the big station, which was WGCI. So in 4 years' time, I worked in Macon, Charleston, South Carolina, Norfolk, Virginia, Dallas, Texas, Miami. My first time in Miami, your hometown,
Yes, sir.
was in 1992 at the original Hot 105.
Yep.
And then WGCI finally hired me, my hometown station, which before Tom Joyner, before the world knew him, he was just working at our station as the afternoon show host. But he was going back and forth to Dallas. So he was called, that's how he got the name Fly Jock.
Right.
So I was the kid working on the station with them every day. And that's how the whole radio thing started, man. The whole radio station. And voiceover would come much later. It would come much later, some years after that.
You know, it's crazy when listening to you say that, because I listened to Dr. Demento and Weird Al. And I remember it's funny how you experience something in your formative stages of life.
Right.
And then as you transition and you get older, the things that you learned then that you apply now, it's like, oh man. So I say that to say, I used to listen. I had this radio. It had AM, it had FM, it had midwave and shortwave. And I used to pick up stations from all over the country. And GCI was one of the ones I picked up. I used to get WBLS. I knew about the stations. Are you
serious? Wow.
Before I started, moving about the country.
Right.
And one of the guys that I always thought had the coolest voice is this cat in LA. His name was Robert W. Morgan.
I remember Robert W. Morgan, yeah.
And first of all, anytime he would say his name, "This is Robert W. Morgan," I'm like, that's a heavy name. You get to say your whole name on the air.
Robert W. Morgan.
Yeah. And then fast forward a few years later, there was a show called Solid Gold.
Oh,
and he was the announcer. And I'm like, why does that voice sound familiar? And then at the end, because back then announcers used to get like a little cred. He's like, "For Solid Gold, this is Robert W." I'm like, that's the same dude. So
and you know who used to host that show too was Frankie Crocker for a bit. Do you remember that? Yeah, Frankie. Yeah, he was an idol. He's an inspiration.
Oh, absolutely.
Of mine. Yeah,
Frankie was that dude, man. Rest his soul.
Yeah.
So now you've made the transition full circle. Started the projects. Hey, man, we got to get you out of here. It's gonna be trouble. You start doing radio, and you're like, okay, I'm doing all these stations, but I want to go home. Finally, you get the call. How does that feel that now home is calling you? It's the station, your dream station. Like, okay, I'm back home.
Dream station.
Like, explain that feeling when it all comes full circle for you.
It felt really good. And the backstory, you heard the backstory. Part of that other story, which I didn't mean to leave out, but I'm telling this too. But when I got kicked out of school for not going to school, I was failing because my mother and my stepfather, they were breaking up. So here I am, so consumed with what's going on at home that I couldn't really focus. Me dealing with that, me dealing with attention deficit disorder, me dealing with a stutter because I was always nervous, me dealing with dyslexia, words dancing around. I had a whole bunch of things going on, man. And when you come from a place where people say there's no way you're going to become a radio personality, when you hear that so much, you begin to believe it. And I use that weakness as my strength to do the things. So when I finally made it to my home state, the same place where I was told I couldn't do it, people were blown away because I left as Zurich, which is my real name. Rick is derived from Zurich, which is my real first name. I left as Zurich, but when I came back to Chicago, I was Rick Party. And people like, that's Zurich? Rick Party is Zurich? They couldn't believe it, man. When I came home, my mother, God rest her soul, on the south side of Chicago, she had like all these balloons on a porch and, written in chalk, my son's Rick Party is on WGCI. And Robert Feeder was a big columnist. He was a radio and TV columnist. And he would talk about all the ins and outs in radio and television. So he said something like a hometown hero, born in Chicago, Rick Party makes his way finding home to Chicago, something like that. And my mother clipped that. She took that clip and it always stayed on the newspaper. And that was such a good feeling. And you would think that I was nervous, but I wasn't. When I got that phone call, I was in Miami at the time, and the program director who hired me, I had worked for him previously in Dallas, Texas. His name was Elroy. Is Elroy Smith.
I know Elroy.
So So Elroy, we worked in Dallas in 1990. So Elroy, he says, okay, he got a job in GCI, and he says, I have an opportunity for you. You have to submit a tape. So not only did I submit a cassette tape with all the best of, which is that stuff you actually see on my Instagram page. It's one of the first two videos. And I submit that, and they're like blown away because who submits a video of them on the radio and out in the streets? Because that wasn't heard of then. That was it. All the stuff that we do on social media now, back in the 80s and the late 80s and early 90s, that wasn't heard of. So I submit this thing, and I remember specifically, I'm working in Hot 105 Miami, and they're paying me $38,000 a year. And Elroy says, we have a job. What would you like your salary to be? It was some question like that. I was like, what would I like it to be? I'd like it to be millions of dollars. But what would make sense? And I remember my friend Chio the Hitman. He's another radio personality. We all came up together. He eventually, started in Savannah. He went on to like Z100 in New York. And when he got his first job in a major market, which is San Diego, he said he's making $50,000 a year. It was like, $50,000 a year? Are you kidding me? What? Because we were like in the 30s and 20s. So Elroy said, what would you like? I said, $50,000 a year with my chest out. Man, I ain't count. Come on, I want that 50, man. Drop it on me. So he said, I don't know if I can give it to you. Let me talk to the GM, the general manager, which was his boss. And he talked to him, and his name is Marv Dyson. And Marv got on the phone. He called me. He said, well, I got your demo tape and I got your videotape, and we gonna hire you, little ugly ass. I was like, yes. I was living in Miami. I was in Kendall at the time, man. And I remember on the ground, like making like carpet angels, because I was like, man, I'm going home to Chicago. And Miami did me good because Miami showed me nothing. Like, that's my second home. And it did me good, but I was ready to go home. I was ready to be with my mother. I was ready to, live out my dream. And that was the greatest moment in the entire world, man. And when I think about all the persistence, I think about all the hard work, I think about never giving up. I think about this kid, with the stutter and the dyslexia and the ADD and dropped out of school and all of that stuff, bro. That kid is me. That kid is me then. That kid is me today. And there's nothing that I could do that makes me feel like I failed, because if I look at my entire life and I look at that one moment that I made it back to Chicago, that's my book. Like, the greatest feeling in the entire world, man.
Bro. Now we go into phase 2. So now you are Rick Party.
Mm-hmm.
You back at the crib, you on GCI, you doing your thing, man.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden,
Yeah.
you starting to get the ear from other people. And you go from just being,
Mm-hmm.
Chicago's top DJ. Talk about when you make the next leap, syndication. Because a lot of people don't understand how that works in radio. You start off locally, you get a following, then people like, hey, we got some folks that have heard you here. Let's see how you can take on the rest of the country.
So the syndication that came way after came after Voiceover started. Yeah. So I don't know if you want to talk about Voiceover first, then syndication, because I was still okay.
Talk about the transition there.
All right.
So you're doing radio and you're doing well. You shot calling, it's how much I want. Y'all better give me that bag. And they say, okay, plug lad boy, here, take it. What's he gonna do? But then you show improve. When does Voiceover come into your life? And that transition happens. So
do you remember the software called Cool Edit?
To Adobe Audition. Yeah.
Adobe Audition. Yeah, so some friends of mine, the first voiceover I did though. The first voiceover I did was for Coca-Cola back in the 90s. I didn't know what I was doing. They said, hey, I like your voice on the radio. Come and do a voiceover. And I did Coca-Cola and some more stuff. And I think we were union anyways. I didn't care. I didn't know what voiceover was. I didn't know what it's about. And then a station by the name of Sports Channel called me in to do some long-form narration on some gaming for, it was called, oh, my God. It was the station was called the Sports Channel. And I'll come back and try to remember the name of the gaming show. So I'm narrating these little characters on these games. And it was so annoying because it took like an hour to do it. And I was like, I never want to do this again. But I had to do a few episodes. So that was called voiceover, but I didn't know it. And even after GCI, I left GCI for a brief stint, went to Atlanta, and the production director always tried to get me to do voiceover. I was like, no, man, I don't have time. I want to go to the clubs. I want to go chase the women, bro. I don't have time for this. Like, come on, man. Like, someone waiting for me now. I'll do it tomorrow. Never did. He wound up doing it. I hated voiceover. And then eventually, after stopping to make a little pit stop in Atlanta for 2 years, I was hired back into Chicago. But I was thinking about the end game, Trey. I was like, what am I going to do when this is over? Because Tom, Jordan, Doug Banks, they've gone syndicated. I'm back here. By this time, I'm making good money. I'm in my 6 digits and stuff like that. But I'm like, okay, how far is this gonna go? So I did a voiceover for a friend of mine, and he said they needed a voice for a narration called "Before I Wake" for Tupac Shakur. And I was like, okay, like how do I do it? Like, what do I need to do? And he's like, this guy Paul gave me a CD-ROM of Cool Edit. And I was like, he said, you can record. This is what they use in studios. I was like, he put it in. I just saw this multi-track thing. I was like, oh my God. Oh my God. Do you know what I'm about to do with this? So I narrated Before I Wake, the Tupac documentary back in the early 2000s. Yeah. And that's when this whole voiceover thing, this spark just blew. And from that point on, I started recording demos for radio stations. I was making my self demos. Like one demo, Trey had a commercial on it. The other one had a promo on it. The other one had like a character voice. It's all over the place, But this is, we don't know. I mean, we didn't know. I'm just making a demo with all of my voices, and it was horrible. It was horrible. Then I put it on a trade website called Urban Insight, and I wanted to show them my skills. You remember that, right? I placed it on there with some of my radio imaging too, and my company then was called Sizzle Productions. And when they heard it on there, when they heard my demo, they was like, "This is more like sizzling, because it ain't sizzling, my dog. It ain't doing nothing, my guy." So that just pissed me off, man. It made me go back in the. You know how it is, right? When they tell you no, that means go. So I went back in the lab, I wasn't eating, I wasn't sleeping. I made that thing pop. And then I sent my demo to another program director. His name is Doc Winter, Jacksonville, right? Yeah, Doc Winter heard my demo. He's like, my guy, like, you got it. I'm about to put you on all these hip hop stations around the country. And he put me like, I don't know, he put me like on 30 stations. I went from like no stations to 30 stations, like just like that overnight. So my first taste of real voiceover, like really working, was imaging. Although I did the long form narration prior to that, it was nothing that I was in love with yet. I was just kind of falling in love with my voice. And then in the midst of that, a friend of mine, Cynthia Johnson, was working at Warner Brothers, and she said, we need a voiceover for Destiny's Child. They're going to be receiving the Sammy Davis Jr. Award on the Soul Train Awards. And they gave me that. And from there, everything popped off. BET, BET wanted an HIV promo in December of 2003. They sent me the script. I turned it back around in like 5 minutes. They're like, what? Nice. And this is good? That became a 10-year relationship, bro. And in the middle of that, everything else, like, all sorts of jobs and voiceover coaching. Rodney Salisbury, as you say, he was your first coach. He was my first coach. Yeah, G. Keith Alexander, Maurice Tobias. I mean, list goes on, man. And that's how I really got the true bug in voiceover. It was someone giving me that CD-ROM, and it just opened up all the possibilities, bro. Like, it is like when we get like a new microphone, we'd be like, I wonder what it's going to sound like. In our heads, we know what it's going to sound like, right? You ever buy something like you buy, like in your mind, it's going to sound a certain way, but when you get like,
time.
This ain't it.
No, this ain't it. Especially in our business, we always want the newest gadget. I got boxes of stuff that I bought that I haven't even used, but I got it just to say, look what I got. And I don't even use that piece, man. One day, but I know. So I want to shift gears a little bit. I recently, well, I shouldn't say recently. Well, we've been married 6 years. So I don't call her my stepdaughter. She is my daughter.
Okay.
So I have become, by essence, a girl dad. You, even though you have boys, I have seen you interact with your daughter, who is now in high school. And I always joke with you about, like, boy, are you ready for this? So how is it being a girl dad? And one thing I'll say, there comes an age where daddy and daughter are like this, but then when she starts to come into her own identity, and you like, my baby is growing up. Like, talk about that transition, because with boys, you can look and tell he gonna be all right. He going through something, he gonna be all right. But when it's baby girl, it's a whole different thing.
Yeah, it's a whole different thing. Funny thing about it too, if a lot of people don't know, a lot of most of my career, I was raising my sons, my 4 boys, and they were traveling with me. And I also have 2 daughters. Now, my 2 daughters, they didn't live with me, but I make my way around. Busy life. I had my radio life. I had the voiceover. I was raising my boys. Had to go see my daughters. So I was constantly moving. And somewhere in the mix, Trey, I had these moments where I had to slow down and like really look at my children and say, although we work so hard and we want them to see, this is what life is about. You're supposed to work hard. I started to sit back a little bit and say, maybe we should love a little harder though. Maybe we should give them our time. And because I didn't have time, I was chasing after my career. I couldn't really, really sit down and sow the proper seeds that I wanted to. Of course, I loved them and we played and we did this, but with this busy life, you couldn't do as much. So by the time, my youngest son's growing up, and I think the youngest was like 13, 14 years old. I'm like, it's been about 13 years since I have a kid. I've got 6 children. I'm not going to have any more children. I'm good. And then someone I was dating at the time, my girlfriend I was
Uh-oh,
dating.
about that.
She goes, yeah, buddy, we're about to have a baby. It's like, yeah. So that thing happened. I was scared, but I was an older man by this time. I was in my I think I had just turned 40. And 40, yeah, I think I just turned 40 when she told me. And as afraid as I was, when I saw that little girl born, Trey, I knew that she needed me. And this thing that I had been chasing after, radio and voiceover, it needed to take the back seat a little bit. And I spent so many years just watching her grow from just from a baby to a toddler to a young lady now. I've had like years of videos of her. Even when I was the voice of BET, I'd always, how we always like listen to our commercials when, we sit there in the commercial breaks. And then I have a video of her as a little toddler, and I'm playing with her because I spent so much time playing with her. And then she hears "Tonight on BET," and she turns around, she whips. I have the video of that, man. I have so much, and I learned how to integrate her in my life. With me doing my voiceover for radio network, she'd sit there right on my lap, and I have videos of this, me being a father and me doing work at the same time. But to me, out of everything that I've ever chased, or ever wanted to do in my career, being a father is the most precious title I could have. And her being 14 years old, allowing me to be in her life, allowing me to listen to her without her having to hide or lie. It's a great feeling, man. But I'm telling you, Trey, your stepdaughter, how long have you been your stepdaughter? I mean, your daughter's life. I'm sorry.
Well, that's a crazy story. Her mother and I dated in the past. When I first met her, she was 5 years old.
5 years old, right.
And then in between then, she and we broke up. She got married and then got divorced. And when I saw her again, I now got a 16-year-old in front of me.
Okay.
Like, crazy enough, she remembered me. She's like, I remember you, and we used to do this and this. I'm like, okay, so there was still something there that I'm glad she remembered. But she had her moments where it's like, well, mom just got divorced, and I thought it was gonna be just me and her for a while, and now you're back in her life, and I really had to, where me and her mom were good.
Yeah.
I now had to say, okay, now how do I get me and this young lady good? Because I'm the enemy, because she thought now that mom's divorced, I get more of her, but now her mom and I are focusing on each other. So I would just do things to show her that, you can come talk to me. You can trust me. I'm here for you. She used to bowl in high school. She's a bowler. And I would never tell her I was coming to the matches. And I would just kind of sneak in and just kind of sit off in the corner and watch her bowl. And I remember one time she had a strike. She killed it. And I was like, yeah. And she heard me. So all these kids were like, that guy's been over there watching you the whole time. Who's that? And then she saw me, and I'm like, dang. So I'm just kind of like, hey. And from there, our relationship changed. If I said I was going to the hardware store, she in the car, like, where we going? I'm like, what are you doing? I just want to, can I go? Can I roll? Can I be down? I'm like, okay, cool. And when it all came to a head, I took both of them to meet my family for the first time. It was Christmas. And Christmas in Miami, you already know how it is. Ain't no snow, ain't no.
Of course, right.
I'm on the grill, bro.
Right.
And she come outside. She's like, hey, I want to talk to you for a second. So I'm thinking something went down. So now I'm already mentally in daddy mode. She wasn't my stepdaughter then, but I'm like, what's going on? She's like, no, it's nothing like that. I just want to tell you that, I haven't seen my mom this happy in a long time. And I know that's because of you. And we both are happy. And I just want to say thank you for being in our lives. And I'm like, I'm trying to be a G. I'm like, oh, that's cool, man. That's cool. Smoke.
Cool.
Got my, and I knew from there,
Yeah,
it was
man.
all good. So
Yeah.
yeah, she really turned things around, but I totally get that
Yeah.
about fatherhood. And it doesn't matter when you become a father. Once you have that title and everything changes.
Absolutely.
Everything changes.
And yeah. And me, it feels good. You know, I had a time in my life where I paused and I had gone in a different direction. And it was during the pandemic that I thought the world was ending. And while I wasn't with my daughter, and I got married for a couple years, I was out of that relationship and another relationship, and the world was ending. And my daughter would now, for me being in her life every day, she would come over every other weekend because we had to split weekends. Although she lived with her mother still wanted a full weekend with her because she was also
Mhm.
working, right? And we did that. We did that. And my daughter come and visit me in Miami. Then I got my syndicated show. She come and visit me there in Atlanta. So I was always keeping my every 2-week appointment. But when the world was about to end, I was like, okay, it's the pandemic, what I need to be. And I thought about this long and hard. I made a decision to come back in this direction. My daughter needed me every single day in her life, and I've been there ever since. And in the midst of during the pandemic, sure, so many things happened. My mother was diagnosed with
Yeah.
cancer. The stint in Miami, it ended because I wanted the syndicated show. I really wanted at Hot 105. I really wanted them to sign. At the time it was me and Benji Brown, the comedian. We hosted the afternoon show, so we wanted to be the morning show. But since Tom Joyner was leaving, the company said they want to bring someone else in, which was going to be Ricky Smiley. Like, how are we going to argue Ricky Smiley? I mean, come on,
Yeah.
So we're like, we out of here. So they're like, listen, this is what we want to pay you for 3 years. You're going to be making nearly $1 million for 3 years. I was like, no, we out of here. We're good. I don't want to do another, whatever. My ego was hurt. I was really butthurt, to be quite honest with you. Yeah. So the truth of the matter is that when we do this thing, Trey, and you know this, being a voiceover artist, and I've seen it in you, like when you posted yourself narrating the video games to now being the voice of the games and the video games. It's like thoughts have power, words have power. So I knew that little thing that I said goodbye to in Miami, I knew that I'd be syndicated. I didn't know how, but I just knew that somehow the creator keeps on making it possible for me to get these opportunities. And for the most part, and I tell people that it's faith, and a lot of it is mindset. Like everything you do has to do with mindset. And it's crazy it would sound like I do these workout programs and stuff like that. And they'd be like, all right, in chapter 1, we're going to talk about mindset. I'm like, can you get right to the workouts, bro? And this is what you need to eat. No, I don't need to eat that, man. Work out, But I've learned that everything we do has to do with mindset. I think some of my students, they get so annoyed because I talk about mindset so much. I said, you don't understand. And when I think about my life and where I come from, that kid who stuttered, that kid with ADD, that kid who had dyslexia, I had to get my mind right. I had to believe in myself, because if I don't believe in myself, nobody's going to believe in me. Right. And when you believe in yourself, you wear that. You wear that confidence on you, and just so glad to share it with people. So I knew that, I don't know how, but within the 5 months after leaving Miami, we had the syndicated job, and now Westwood One brought us on, and we're hired. We're on 30 stations around the country, and I'm still making my appointments to see my daughter. I had moved to Atlanta, but I'm still flying back to Miami. She lived in Wellington, West Palm Beach at the time. So I'm flying back there to spend time with her. And she has truly, truly, like, changed my life. Like I owe everything to my children. And the second part of my life to this girl, because for the most part, she keeps me grounded. Like, she really keeps me grounded. It's crazy. You get to the point like when you're talking to your daughter, Trey, and sometimes we say things that we actually believe what we're saying, and they go like, "Dad, do you hear what you're saying? Do you believe that?" Like, she's always challenging me and making me feel this small. I'm like, "You're only 14 years old," and then when she's right, I always say, "Shut up, Zion," and she just laughs. But she knows she's right.
So I'll tell you an interesting story. So your daughter's name is Zion. My daughter's name is Zion, but Danielle was going to name her Zion. And because while she was pregnant, she listened to the Miseducation of Lauryn Hill. And to this day, if she hears that song, Going to Zion, she's in tears because she was pregnant while that when that CD was out. So that's crazy, man.
Wow.
The parallels. So
by the way, I gotta say I love you and Danielle's relationship. That's one of the things that made me say that I need to bring my family back together. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. That's one of the things and it made me feel good just the way y'all be rubbing nose and rubbing faces and
we goofy,
that's so stinking cute.
It's
just
crazy,
beautiful, man.
I remember my cousins meeting her for the first time. As I now hear her leave and get ready to go to school. And I've never brought many women home to meet the folks. And even the ones that I had, it was like, she cool, but I don't think that's the one, bruh. Cause she all right, but they saw she and I interact, and I can see all the people elbowing and like, that's gonna be your one, bro. That's gonna be the one. And here we are 6 years later. She is definitely the one, and I tell folks all the time, she saved me in many ways because my VO career was tanking. And let me not say that. It wasn't tanking. Where I wanted to be versus where I was, I felt like I should have been there sooner. And because I wasn't, I felt like it was tanking. And I tell this story often of me going to the pawn shop with a crate box full of stuff, getting ready to sell it all. Like, I'm sick of it. She's like, "Where you going?" I'm like, getting rid of this. She's like, "Nope. I don't want to come home if we get married and you just had a hard day at the office, and every time you hear a promo or play a game or see a movie trailer, you sitting there going, what if?" And she was right.
I know, right?
And I listened to her and others, but specifically to her because this was going to be my life partner. So I'm like, yeah, I would probably come home and like, there go that damn Rick Party again, So I had to pivot and refocus, and a lot of things after that took place. But had I not listened, they wouldn't have. So, baby, if you're watching, just saying, I got you.
And that's so important too. Like with what we do, we have so much talent, but if we don't have a support system, we're nothing. Because all it takes if your lady could have said you do an audition, she hears it. For the most part, we don't really let them hear nothing these days. But in the beginning, they would hear, what do you think about this? They'd be like, it's okay. and we go back, and I just the fact to see how she supports you, man, is just such a beautiful thing, man. And you wear it so well, bro. I just gotta say that I know you're interviewing me, but I'm proud of you. I'm proud of your career. I'm proud of you as a father, a husband, and just a human being, man. And I always tell people, like, you may not believe it, but when you're kind to people, other people see that, and other people want to work with you. And especially when you live right. And I say this to people, I don't care how incredible you think your voice is. There's always somebody who's much better. And then that person who's much better than you, there's someone who's much better than they are. But what does it all come back down to? You got to have a good attitude. If you have a good attitude, people want to work with you. Sometimes people want to work with you based on that. Like the other things, we'll shape it. We'll shape it. But we like him. We say that we can do business with him. And you're the kind of person that people want to do business with. And other than that, other than you being incredibly talented,
that helps.
But
so let's talk about now.
There you go.
And we're doing the timeline. So Main Street, Chicago. You get inspired to do radio.
Yeah.
And now you're, as most folks in the radio business do, you go from this station to this station to this station. You hit home. Everything is vibing. The VO bug hits. Oh, and real quick, I remember you when I was still learning about it, but not really gotten the full bite of the VO bug. You used to have your air checks on YouTube. And when you were doing the BET stuff, I'd always type in BET promo and it was you, but then YouTube always has that, it would be like this, you'll like that. And it was like, Rick Party WGCI air check. I'm like, what the hell is an air check? So I started watching them and it's like, hey, it's 4 o'clock, y'all. It's Rick Party. I'm like, oh, this cat do radio? And then that's when I made the connection. Like, wait, why have I heard that name? This dude doing radio in my city. Y'all trip. It's crazy how that all,
right
comes to a head. So
right.
VO hits. You killing it. Still doing radio. You get the nationally syndicated show. Now, and then talk to the people about when you get here and life is good, family is good, but then you lose the show. And for some people, that could just be like, well, what's next? The show is gone. So then maybe that means work is going to slow down. That means, they could fall into this chasm of despair or depression or, negativity. How do you continue to rise and keep above and stay above?
I think it goes back early to not really knowing how to lose. Like, I'd always said it to myself, something always happens, right? People always say God looks after them, God does this, but faith without work is dead. So I was always just putting in work. Like, I had this equipment, I was still doing voiceover. So radio, I had voiceover and radio working together. So the radio ended, but I was still doing voiceover work. So I could still continue that. Yeah, no, I'm not making all that radio money, but I still, this money over here, radio voiceover was good for me. And, I'm still trying to hang on to radio. I was still trying to hang on to a little bit. And I was like, let me just take a break for a little bit.
Yeah.
And it gave me an opportunity. And that happened during the pandemic because a lot of people got fired. There were furloughs and all sorts of stuff. But it gave me a chance to really hone in on what was going on with my daughter. Like, she was growing up and women could relate to this. So there's a time when I came right in time in my daughter's life, right? She was flat chested, right? She's 10 years old. And there was something going on. And her mother and I were talking because she kept blaming, she kept saying she had a knot in her chest. And we're like, oh God, cancer runs in my family. And I'm like, this is gonna be tough. And I'm afraid. I'm not thinking about the fact that I got fired at this point. I'm like, I'm doing voiceover, but my daughter's got this issue, right? So, and her mother's a doctor, by the way, an OBGYN, and I'm thinking she would know what's going on. So we take her to the doctor. And the pediatrician, right, for the kids,
that's
right?
The feet, bro. That's the feet.
I always get the pediatrician and podiatrist confused. That's the feet. Yeah, the feet. Yeah, pediatrician. So take it to the pediatrician, and they go, "Yeah, your daughter's budding."
That was the pain in her chest that she was actually getting one.
That was it. That was the pain in her chest. Exactly. She's getting one at a time. I know, right? So, just to be there in her life and experience all of this growth was just beautiful. I've been here to witness that, to her growth spurred, to her being under me and loving me, and to her now patting me on the back when I want to hug, like Zach, Zion, come and give me a hug. She go, okay, Dad, you good? Okay, there you go, big guy. There you go. You're like, really? She doesn't have time for me these days, but the beauty of it is that she's right in that room over there, and that feels good to me, man.
But that's
That
how
feels
it
good.
works, man.
Yeah,
That's why I alluded to earlier how as we grow, they grow, and
absolutely.
she's not, even though she's daddy's little girl to you, she's like,
Yeah,
look, bruh, can you stop following me? Can you put the
yeah.
camera down? Let me just get this picture. They're like, nah,
Right, right.
I just want to be me and chill with my girls. I do this, but you look so cute. But listen, sir, sir, put it away.
Right.
I get that totally. Um, so now let's shift gears.
Uh-huh.
Um, we've seen, the rise and fall and rise again,
Right.
and now you share the wealth. You're coaching.
Yes.
Talk about the fulfillment of being a coach and teaching those who want to come up and do the same things that we do.
It feels good, man, because for me it was innate. And when I say that, from Earl Boston taking the time out to take this kid under his wing that was living on the south side of Chicago, that didn't know what he wanted to do with his life, and then wanted to be like him. And I think about all the issues that I had, growing up, including the lack of comprehension. I think about all of the adults that grow up and never share with anybody what their weaknesses are. And you remember like listening to people in radio and voiceover and just admiring their voices and saying to yourself, if I could speak that clearly or that cool, people would like me and all of that. So for me, when I started teaching voiceover, I started really just kind of teaching from my heart. And I said to myself, there has to be somebody out there like me, or someone who's just afraid to speak. And if anything, you may not become a voiceover star, but you're going to have the confidence to speak. And that felt good to me. I always felt like it was kind of like a therapy session, not for them, but for me.
Yeah.
Yes. So that's what I do. And a lot of them walk out. And when we talk to them, we take on a lot of their personal issues, but we want them to feel like they're at home. So for me, it feels good. There are times when I have to take a break from it, right? Like times when I take a break away from coaching because I want to get back, to my life. Because when you talk to people that have lots of things going on, if you're not careful, you can take that on yourself.
In it, yeah, true.
Yeah, so I did that a lot. So I have my breaks, but I feel like it's my calling to help people in whatever this coaching thing is, which I call it the Rick Party method. And I don't call it voiceover coaching. It is voiceover coaching, but it can also be radio coaching. It can just be a conversation, but it's my method. And like I said, they do more for me than I do for them. And it's crazy because sometimes it feels selfish, like they're paying me to help me, so, but it feels good, man. It feels good to give back, because that's what it's all about. And with giving back, Trey, I've always done this in radio. I would visit high schools and grade schools, and I go to prisons in Chicago, like the Cook County Jail and all sorts of places around, different cities that I worked in. It was always a goal of mine to sow seeds in the community, because I saw Earl do it. I saw my mother do it. Even when my mother was dealing with cancer, leaving chemo, she would go visit Miss Johnson or Miss So-and-so who was dealing with their own illnesses. So my mother's feeling sick, and my mother never stopped doing this. And I saw this. And with that, not only during coaching, I was awarded the Presidential Lifetime Achievement Award from the office of President Barack Obama some years ago. And that felt good. That was for community service. And then I received an honorary doctorate for humanitarianism. And those things felt really good to me because somebody saw the things that I didn't intentionally do for any type of clout. I did it from my heart because it was the only thing that I know. And prior to that, people had tried to give me awards for certain things. And I was like, I can't accept this because I don't deserve it. And I haven't done anything for it because there were some times when I was really just thinking about myself. My entire life hasn't been, this clean cut. I had some selfish moments in pockets. Yeah, but I had some moments, but for the most part, when I think about my career in both voiceover and radio, it was always about pouring into other people, and coaching just makes me feel, it makes me feel complete, man. That's the best way to describe it. It makes me feel complete when I coach.
That's what's up. And on a personal note, and talking about your mom, I remember you going on when you would do the Facebook lives and giving the updates. And I remember when things were, there were some good days and there were some bad days. And your lady at the time, I remember, you had a moment and you broke down, and I'm sitting here, I was sobbing with you because all I could think about my mom, who was a survivor as well. And I'm like, man, if I was near this brother, I would just grab on to him and just and squeeze him. And today is my mom's birthday.
Oh
Yeah.
man.
No,
Happy
she's here.
heavenly
She's here.
birthday to
She's
your mom,
here.
man.
No.
Oh.
Don't
Well,
put the
well,
mama-
from the
I
heavens,
need
from the
her,
heavens
bro.
above.
Don't do that.
From the-
I'll send her
Or
off.
from
He
my
ain't
from
mean
my
nothing.
mom
He
in
ain't
heaven,
mean
from
that.
my
He
mom in
ain't
heaven to
mean-
your
I
mother.
swear he ain't
Yeah.
mean.
No.
But
No.
yeah.
Oh, happy
But
birthday.
what I
Happy
wanted to
birthday.
get to, listening to how things started into where things are, I just want to say, brother to brother, she is smiling, dude. Because I've seen,
Thank you, man.
and we talk, off camera and on the phone and stuff, and I know how hard that was. But just if nobody else has told you, I want to say to you, I am proud of you because that took a lot. And I think for men, and if we even go deeper as Black men, it's hard for us to show emotions. Um, be it because of what society has painted the picture of how a Black man should be or look. We're supposed to
Yeah.
keep our emotions bottled up, but you showed a vulnerable side, and I have a group of brothers that are in the business, and we have this core group, and we talk about issues. It could be work related, maybe something
Right.
going on with his girl or something going on with me and my girl, and we talk about it. Um, and it all goes back to mental health. How important for you and your family is mental health?
Whew. Thank goodness, man. I have my family's I have a very special family. And when I say my family, I'm talking about uncles and my aunties and everybody, man. I come from one of those families. They're like devout Christians.
They love the Lord.
They
They love them
love
some
some
Jesus.
God, and every month, oh man, we get on the phone every month, the first of the month at 6 a.m. and they pray. It's like, who's got a prayer today? And you talking about we did some dancing, some praying, and I love them. And I think about everybody who made me. And mostly when I thought about it this week, those are all of my aunties,
Wow.
man. My grandmother had 10 children, but my mother's sisters, they were the strongest in the bunch. And I really just realized that this past week. I was like, they're amazing. Like the way that they pray, the way they hold you down, the way they lift you up. So they always had, they stayed close to the word. So there was not a lot of going to get counseling. It was always, you're going to get counseling from the Lord, right?
Yeah.
And of course you grow up like that. But when you start to separate a little bit, a lot of it from it, then you realize you're not so connected and you need a different thing. And for me, losing my mother, Trey, and being with her, going with her to counseling, chemo, I didn't really see. Let me say this really quick. So my mother, she was a very lively 60-something-year-old woman, and she died at 69, by the way. She was very lively. So she's the kind of person, like, if I go and visit her, I better call first because she may be in Mexico. You know what I'm saying? That's my mother with her girlfriends. So when this thing slowed her down, it slowed her down. So watching her go through this, and we're talking about a beautiful, full-figured woman, big, beautiful, the curves, all of that. And to see her go from a big, full-figure woman to a woman who I could pick up, it tore me up, man. Like it was my worst nightmare to see someone go through that stage. And I didn't think that it would have the effect that it had on me. And of course I had therapy, I had friends. It was that connection that I had to my mother, because that was my first love. Like she was my first love, and I was her first love. And when she passed away, just like you saw me in a video, man, at my mother's funeral, bro, in my immediate family, my mother has 4 children. I'm the oldest of 4. My sister Mia, KT, and O'Brien, former Sergeant Major. We were at the funeral. I'm the oldest. They're giving speeches and talking, and I'm the radio guy, the voiceover guy. They're thinking, like, oh, yeah, Rick's going to say something's going to be powerful. I'm just sitting there going, I'm just crying, man.
Yeah.
I had nothing to say. I didn't even get up to the microphone. I was just behind them, and they were keeping me up. So your question about mental health, my mother passing, it took a lot out of me. And I needed that, Trey, to be honest with you, man, because my life was just moving. I was just popping, just moving. And I was just so excited for my life. But I needed something to just like, when was the last time you cried? Like, when's the last time you shed a tear, man? Like let it go. And I had cried even prior before that. It was rough, man. And my therapist, in fact, my co-host Sasha Diva, when we had the syndicated show, the therapist came to the radio show, and she said, "How can we help Rick, because he's always crying?" And he's like, "You can't help Rick. Why? But she's trying to understand why is he crying like that?" And the therapist said, "The bigger the love, the bigger the loss."
That is a full bar right there.
Damn. Sir. Ooh. Man, I love my mama so much. And we weren't even the kind of, mother and son that talked like, you got to talk to your mother every day or every week. My mother wasn't.
Boy, what you want?
I'm working, I'm busy, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. Yeah, we'll catch you when I catch you. It was like, she was never like the mother who was at home lonely waiting for you to call. No, she was like the 60-something that was living her life. She's traveling. She was doing stuff. She was helping people. And when you get on the phone, it's like she's tired because everybody else is calling her too. Like she was always the person giving to people. So when I think about my mother, losing her, it was a lot. I truly lost a big portion of who I was, but also gained some some important things that I needed in my life. So it was a lot, and I'm still in therapy. I'm still in therapy in many ways. I still talk to my therapist every now and then. It's not so bad today. And then sometimes I have the people that are around me. They like, okay, bro, we can talk about this tomorrow.
I can't cry with you today, man. We can cry on Thursday, but Tuesday, I'm not ready.
Yeah, right. So
yeah, I get it.
Yeah, so I just take it out on social media, man. And some of my friends. So that's it, bro, man. But taking care of our mental health is so important. I say to people, if you're ever in a situation where you're dealing with a great loss, the most important thing you can do is just really just cry. Like, just let it all out. Cry yourself a river. Cry some more. Truth of the matter is, when you lose somebody, you will lose some parts of yourself, and it's only normal, you know. And then you go and rehydrate. Just take it, one step at a time, and you rehydrate yourself. And then you're ready to pour into other people.
I used to be called growing up because I was a very emotional kid. And even before Adam Sandler's movie, I was called the Water Boy.
The Water Boy, really?
The least little thing, I'm Buddha hell hooing. I'm just, and then for years, I got super thick skin to where I didn't let things bother me. I could find out a friend passed or this happened, like, oh, that's messed up, man. I hope he all right. And then
but he dead, Trey.
Huh?
You say you found out he passed?
Yeah.
But you said he hope he all right?
Yeah.
He gone already.
You
were so just disconnected from it.
Yeah,
huh?
I was just so disconnected. And I'm hearing what they saying, but I'm just like, I was afraid to show my emotion.
Yeah.
But over the years, I got to a point where I'm like, look, this is who I am. I'm, and you hear people say it nowadays. Well, I'm an empath. I really am. I feel for people.
Yeah.
And sometimes I feel people. So when something happens, either to or for myself or from someone else, the tears will automatically flow. And I've learned now to not stop it, because I want you to see how I'm feeling. I want to tell you how I'm feeling. And that took a lot for me to do. And especially once I got married, because now I can't harbor those feelings to myself because I have a partner now. If she's hurting about a thing, I can't just be like, well, girl, you got to work it out now. Cause that's, in this family, no, if she's crying, I want to find out why. I'm going to comfort her. I'm going to do whatever I can. But there have been times when, my armor has fallen off and I'm just a puddled mess. And all of a sudden I just feel two arms around me and she's like, what's wrong with you? And I have no problem telling her I feel this way because, or I saw this thing that made me feel because. There have been times I've auditioned for big jobs and you get the call back, and then there's another call back. And you know how you can get 5 callbacks and you're like, well, damn, when y'all gonna make a decision? And then your agent's like, all right, it's down to you and 3 people. I'm like, okay, y'all need another call back? Let me go and knock this out because I'm gonna be the one. And then you don't be the one.
Right.
Some jobs hurt more than others. Some you just like, whatever, I get another one. But there's certain ones you want so bad. And I remember there's one gig, I don't even remember what it was for, but I auditioned my ass. I gave the audition of auditions. I'm like, y'all coming to get me. I was like, Denzel, I'm leaving with something. And I didn't get the call. And I was just crestfallen, dude. And before I knew it, I was sitting there part angry and part sad. And I represent Denzel again. I had that one sad tear. And she was like, you can't let this thing consume you. I'm like, it's not the fact that it's consuming me, even though it was deflection. I'm like, but I think about the things we could have done if I got this payday. And this was earlier when we were married. I'm like, the things that I can do for you, for us, for this family. She was like, look, it's coming. Don't let this one thing derail all of your successes that you've had up to this point. That one job does not define who you are. Did you want it real bad? Yeah. Did they make you do callback after callback after callback? Yeah. Did you get it? No. It's okay.
Hmm.
Feel how
Right.
you feel, and then let's work on the next step. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I think as I've gotten older too, um, I tell my sister all the time, my I don't give a bleep meter is so over here now that I don't care. If I got something on my mind, you gonna know it. If I'm mad, you gonna know it.
Right.
If I'm sad, you gonna know it because I don't have time to be concerned with how you feel about a thing because my feelings are valid just as much as yours. And if you can't respect how I feel, um, take it how you want to take it. But this is how I feel about that. So mental health is very important. And brothers, if you're watching, it's okay. Talk to whoever you need to talk to. I've heard guys say, "Well, man, I can't talk to my girl like that. She gonna just tell me, well, toughen up." And like sometimes it's so you don't have to toughen up. We can be puddles
Right.
of water too. You know,
Right.
allow that brother to feel how he feel. And sisters the same thing. If your dude, and now we're preaching now, but my point is put people in your circle that will allow you to be you. Okay.
Absolutely. That you said it. That's a bar
Yeah.
right there, man. Put people in your circle that will allow you to be you. And I was gonna say that. I mean, if you're with somebody and they have a problem with you being an empath, a problem with you being a sensitive man, they need not be with you. That's not the person for you. And to men too, just as Trey saying, he described himself and he saw me crying in the video. It's okay. It's okay to put masculinity with sensitivity. A man can be sensitive too. And Trey, you sound like my kind of dude, man. I don't know if you this and maybe I'm too sensitive. I could look at a commercial. I could see something on TV and it can be something that strikes me. I go, am I alone,
No,
Trey?
sir. I
Okay.
saw
Okay.
I saw a video. It was a Christmas video, just aired maybe a couple of days ago.
Right.
And this cat and his mom, the mom was like, "Hey honey, I gotta work late. I'm sorry. We'll decorate the tree later." And while she was out
Mm-hmm.
working, and I think it was for either for Amazon or Walmart, one of the stores, he goes and gets all the trimmings and
Right.
stuff, and he decorates the tree
Mm-hmm.
himself. So now they pan to where she's coming in and she's tired and she's turning the key. And when she opens the door, the house is fully decorated. And he just kind of standing there like, "Merry
Wow.
Christmas, Mom." I'm like, that's cool. That's real cool. Man, what the score is, man, when the game come back on. But it got me. It just came out of nowhere. So yeah, I feel that 100%. So let's
Yeah.
wrap this up, man. This
Okay.
segment of the show is where I like to talk to my guests. Um, when the cameras and mics are off and you have rap for the day, which in our business we never do. But when you get that moment
Right.
or those moments to yourself, tell the good folks, how does Rick Party take time out for himself?
Well, Rick Party puts on his
You got
headset
one
right
too,
here. He goes
dog?
into the virtual
I got my
world.
Oculus
Yes.
right
Yes.
there.
Yeah. So that's what I do. I go into the virtual world. And this is funny, Trey. I actually built a
You told me
voiceover
about that.
studio. Yeah. In Horizon World. So if you're ever in Horizon Worlds, come and hang out with me and check out the voiceover studio. Maybe one day you can come and teach a class or something like that. But it's I saw that people were building these worlds, and I love to build. In fact, I love to draw too. So I love to go into my my virtual world. I wish I had some. I wish you asked me. I could have gotten some stuff. But I love to draw. I sketch. That's something I've done since I was a child. And of course, that being the big double nickel, 55. I turned 55 this year. My health is important. We're living in the stage where just being black,
For sure.
we have so many odds against us. So I gotta keep the motor going, man. I get out there and I take a walk, and I put the phone down. I don't listen to music. I just go out there and I listen to nature, and I get out there and I reflect on the goodness, all the great things that I have in my life, big or small, and I'm still alive. I took that first question way too far. I know you had another one, but yeah, that's me, man. That's what I do when I'm not around this stuff. And then, of course, every now and then I find some junk that don't make no sense, that has no purpose for anything to watch on TV, because I got to get away from the seriousness. So that's my life.
Mindless TV is good TV in my book.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, y'all, this has been like I said, this is a special one for me, because that's my guy right there. Tell the fine folks how they can reach you, man, and give them your info on your class as well.
Yeah, just go to rickparty.com. It's RICKPARTY.com, and you can find every there's a link that links to everything. And if you're on Instagram, I got a menagerie of mess on there. Just the way my brain works. Just go to Rick Party Live on Instagram, and that's it. You'll follow the links and you find my classes or whatever I'm doing. That's it. No more than that.
Yeah, and I didn't want to bring it up, but I'm going to. So interesting name you have there, Zurich.
Mm-hmm.
Wonder where you get that from.
Oh, my name. So what had happened was my mother was a telephone operator, and she was working for Illinois Bell, Chicago, Illinois. She's an 18-year-old operator who had become pregnant, and she needed a name for her son. So Chicago is it has a bunch of Italians and Polish and Mexicans and Puerto Ricans. It's a big melting pot of everybody. And the very last name in the book was Zurich. And my mother didn't want us to have just regular names, So she said she's going to make my last name someone's last name, my first name. So she gave me the name Zurich. And then Trey writes me, he says, I just found out what Zurich means.
Soup.
Polish soup.
Stupid. I was in a
My
Polish
name is
restaurant
Soupy!
with a buddy of mine, and he was like, "Hey, you got to try this. You got to try the soup." I'm like, "Okay, let me." I'm like, "This ain't bad. What is this called?" And the Polish lady, she's like, "This is the Zurich." I'm like, "I'm sorry." And she showed me the menu. I said, "Get the hell out of here!" And I hit him up like, "Bruh, so all these years, you soup, dude?"
Right.
Like, really?
Now, Trev, if you give me the nickname Soup from you to me, I'll gladly take it, man. I don't mind if you call me Soupy.
It's
all
official.
good, man.
Y'all heard it. Yeah.
Nobody else don't call me Soupy,
call him
right?
Soupy.
Yeah.
My dude. Y'all, thanks for taking time out with Tre Mosley today. That is my boy, Chi-Town's own Rick Party, man. And brother, I appreciate you hanging out, man. And truly good to talk with you and chop it up. One of the good cats in this industry. And thank you so much for coming on, man.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
We'll holler at y'all next time. Thanks for listening to the Take Time Out with Tre Mosley podcast, part of the Titan Media Network. You can find us on Spotify, Apple, iHeart, or wherever you get your podcast. To see the video version of this, you can find us on YouTube on the Take Time Out with Tre Mosley YouTube page. Thanks for listening, or thanks for watching. Either way, we'll see you next time.